Hey, welcome everyone to today's panel, Understanding the Basics, How to Create a Durable and Amazing Employee Experience at Work. I'm Rod Hutchings. I'm really looking forward towards today's panel. I'm coming to the call from Sydney, Australia. So employee experience really encompasses everything that an employee encounters and feels throughout their journey with an organisation. So I'm really looking forward to diving in that with our panelists. And if we can bring our panelists forward, please. Wow, and welcome. Lots of familiar faces there. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And to start us off, if we can just introduce ourselves, and we'll just go around clockwise around our virtual room. And I can see we have Tracy first. So welcome, Tracy. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me, you all. I appreciate it. Looking forward to our conversation. I am a PhD sociologist. I study how work affects us, how we affect our work. I'm the Vice President of Workplace Insights for Steelcase, and I write for Forbes and Fast Company, and I've written a couple of books. The most recent is The Secrets to Happiness at Work, and I've been within the field of HR for decades, longer than I want to admit. So I think this profession is amazing, and all that we all do and learn and get to contribute are so important. So looking forward to our conversation.
Thanks, Tracy, and welcome. I'm glad to see you once again. And I'm not sure, good morning, is it, Angela? What's the time for you?
Good morning. It is morning here. I'm coming to you from the lands of the Coast Salish peoples. Glad to be here. I love that in our pre-conference chat, we were all talking about where we're from. We're an international group today, and it's exciting because we get to hear about employee experience around the world, which is fantastic. My name is Angela Champ. I'm an HR executive. I've worked in a number of diverse industries, including financial banking and engineering. And I'm the author of a couple of books, most recently, The Squiggly Line Career, How Changing Professions Can Advance a Career in Unexpected Ways. And I'm really looking forward to our conversation today.
Thank you. We're very happy that you're here. And Agostini, is that how I pronounce your name?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Rod. That would be Agostina, but that's fine. Go by Agos as well. Hi, everyone. I'm Agostina Berni. I'm based in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and I'm a senior global HR leader with over 20 years experience at high growth tech organizations like Eventbrite, Google, and Red Hat. And recently, I transitioned from my role as the global senior HR VP at Eventbrite, where I drove strategic HR initiatives for the senior product leadership team to enhance employee engagement and performance. I'm also a certified Agile leader, so I'm all about Agile and design thinking and human-centered design. I'm really a promoter of those methodologies for impact, and also about for women's leadership and DE&I. And as advisory council member at Hacking HR, I also speak usually regularly on these panels around HR innovation, agile HR, and digital transformation. And I'm really excited to be joining this panel today to share insights with all of you on the panel.
Thank you. And welcome, Jackie.
Hello, I'm Jackie Johnston, and I am so excited to be joined by these panelists today. I'm always admire authors, and so I love to gain their insights and experiences. I am the founder of Talent Vantage, and I specialize in providing talent strategy and leadership coaching services really tailored to enhance workplace experiences by prioritizing the human element. And really, it's by leveraging the GPS to courageously take a people-centric approach across these different elements of what we call the employee journey. So I'm excited to be here and learn alongside each of you and engage in a lively conversation.
Thank you. And last but not least.
Hey, Rod, I'm Dahlia Turner. I am the Chief People Officer at RegTech. I am a Canadian who lives in Portugal. I have a very international experience. I've lived in Europe. I lived in Singapore for a number of years. As I said, I'm North American, so have had experience around the world. And culture and employee experience is definitely something that I am incredibly passionate about. So happy to be talking about this topic with everyone today.
Excellent. So, I mean, what an amazing panel. We're so fortunate to have such a great group. And so let's start to dig into this. So to start off, I just thought, like, as an icebreaker, hopefully something easy, but we'll see how easy it is. I'll come to Angela, and just what's inspired you about improving employee experience in your career to date?
My own personal philosophy is that work does not need to be a drudgery, that work is part of a very meaningful and full life. In fact, just sidebar, I rarely use the term work-life balance. I use the term work-home balance, because work is an important part of a meaningful life. Just ask anybody who's unemployed or underemployed, they'll tell you that it's a miserable way to be. And so my why I'm inspired to do that is because I really feel that when you are doing work that you can be good at, that you're competent in, with people that you like, that have your back and that you have theirs, that it can be a really full and rich experience. And part of that is the employee experience. It's how your boss treats you, it's how your coworkers treat you, it's how the company treats you, with whether it's benefits or a work environment. And that is definitely my inspiration for improving it.
Thank you. Anyone wants to join in on that?
Yeah, that's super similar to what I talk a lot about as well, Angela, that, you know, we think about the narrative right now in the popular press is that work is a grind and less is more and quiet quitting and bed rotting. But in reality, when we're doing great work, when we're doing any kind of work, we're making a contribution, we're expressing our talents and our skills, we're contributing to our esteem, and we need a reason to get off of the couch every day. So work is a big deal in terms of it being part of a full life. I think what's really inspiring about creating great employee experiences is the payoff that we see, not just for organizations in the form of innovation and retention and productivity and performance and competitiveness and innovation. There's research that demonstrates all of those, but especially in terms of the payoff for people, right? Like when people have great work experiences, that tends to spill over to others and we feel more engaged. When people have great work experiences, that tends to spill over to life experiences as well. When we're feeling good at work, we tend to feel better at home, for example. And so when we are able to create those great work experiences where people feel they can bring their best, where they feel respected, where they feel alignment between what they're working on and what they're great at, when they have opportunities for growth and learning, all of those things really, really move the needle in terms of people's happiness, in terms of their joy, in terms of their engagement, and all of the things that make us feel better all the time in our work and our life. So those are inspiring reasons to focus on this.
No, that's pretty good. That's pretty amazing. I might come to Jackie now, and I'll just say, what do you see as some of the essential elements of the employee experience?
I was all ready to talk about inspiration, but I'll talk about elements too. For me, it's the humanity of it, right? Like, I think that at every turning point, there's a moment that can matter to that person, and it's the core, the heart of each stage, right? So where is that person showing up? What is that? We talk about consistency. I talk about continuity, right? So we can't have consistency without continuity of some of those experience and of elements. And so really clarity from leadership and woven throughout the organization on who we are, what we're about, how you fit into this picture as a person with your talents and knowledge and gifts. Workflow in terms of resources. Like, there are some of the tiniest little implications that can really impact how somebody feels about doing their work, that could really be fixed by a simple process change, or working with IT and really leveraging a resource, or through education. People don't know what they don't know. So when they're getting in the way, they don't know they're getting in the way. And so I'll stop there and let other people chime in, because it's really a multifaceted conversation.
Thanks, Jackie.
I agree, actually, with what Tracy, Angela, and Jackie are sharing here. The first question was, what inspires us to work on this topic? I think we can, as employers, we can no longer afford not to work on this, right? The pandemic has been an inflection point for many organizations, and it has definitely impacted employee expectations. And these have changed significantly. And I think as organizations and employers, we are responsible for creating this amazing and scalable employee experiences that touch the lives of all of these individuals. And regarding elements, I think Jackie described some of those as technology. Definitely it's important, because as employees today, we expect the same consumer-like experience we experience outside work, right? So technology has to be seamless, has to be integrated. But then there is also company culture, leadership, C-suite involvement, and engagement on employee experience. So there are a lot of intangibles there that are also critical for employee experience to be successful.
I really like what you said, Agustina, particularly when you talk about it being, the consumer aspect of it. And I think that, one of the things that I love about the employer experience is when you're working with your HR team or your managers and your leaders to talk about what it is and why it's important, and why we need to be treating our employees like our customers, so that they want to be there, so that they want to come back, so that they want to spend more in it's effort and time as opposed to money. So they want to do all of those things. For me, the employee experience, it's what comes on top of your policies and your procedures. And it's the way that you want your employees to be feeling all the time. And it helps to guide the decisions and the interactions that our managers, leaders, and HR teams and other people are having. And I think when it comes down to a number of debates that are out there, are we going to be remote? Are we going to be hybrid? Are we going to return to the office? It's all about the experience that you want those employees to have. And so that's just one example, but being able to say, this is the experience we want our employees to have. And once that's been articulated, everything else should be following, and everyone should be aligned in how they're moving forward.
Thanks. Angela, you'll have to add some.
Great, thank you. I thought we were going to go to Tracy, but what I wanted to add is that what I talk about in my organizations is that if you want employees to feel engaged and giving their best discretionary effort, they really need to feel competent, contributing, and connected. And what I mean by that is, are they developing mastery in the work that they're doing, and can they? Is there a path to do that? Whether it's through training or mentorship or observing people around you, in contributing, do they see how their work helps the organization be successful? Or in the broader sense, like, what's the purpose of the organization? How does that help the broader community? And the third one is connected. Do they feel that connection with their colleagues, with their managers? Do they feel like they have a friend at work, or that somebody has their back, or that if they don't show up for work, somebody's going to phone them and say, hey, you doing okay today? And when we're talking about employee experience, of course, we talk about the candidate's experience. It starts before you're hired. But in those three areas of competent, contributing, connected, one thing that we like to do to make sure that the employee experience starts on the right foot is, in the first week that the employee has started, make sure that you're giving them a task that they can complete in the first week, so that they can say, hey, it's my third day and I already accomplished something, and they have that sense of being competent and contributing. Make sure that you're connecting them with a buddy, or that you're taking them out for lunch, so that they're feeling connected. And it's really important to start that employee experience, preferably before they even start, but definitely in their first week of employment with you.
Yeah, I really like a lot of things you just said there, Angela, or probably all of them. But I think, I mean, a sense of what I was taking from what you said was it's also like it's about belonging, that you do feel like you contribute and that you're seen and you're part of the team. I think they're really essential elements. All right, so we might move on from there, but so I'll come to Tracy this time, and I'm just wondering if you can provide, let's dig a bit deeper on this and provide some specific examples either from your research or organizations of where you've seen this in action. So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the key things in an employee experience is purpose, right? Like giving people that sense of the big picture and how they contribute to it. And so I've seen organizations do this brilliantly when senior leadership is in town halls and doing regular videos for people, when mid-level managers, your direct leader is reminding you how your work contributes to that bigger picture, that planned redundancy, that intentional repetition of a message around purpose is really, really critical. And not just about the purpose of the organization, but how you personally and your work contribute to it. That messaging is great. Another thing that really moves the needle for people in terms of employee experience is connections with other people. We know that that's absolutely fundamental to well-being. And organizations do this really, really well when they put people together on tasks. Like, of course, team building occurs when you're doing your social stuff, right? Your mixology class or your escape room or your rope climbing or whatever. But what actually impacts even more is when people are working together on tasks, rolling up sleeves, sharing common goals, sharing mutual expectations, learning together, struggling together. So organizations can really think about organizing the work and organizing people cross-functionally. And organizations also do this really well when they organize affinity groups, interest groups, volunteer activities that people can do outside of work together. So we're bringing people together and helping them to feel connected, feel belonging, feel a sense of community. And a third thing that really makes a difference in terms of employee experience and happiness and joy is learning. Like, we all need the things we don't have to work quite so hard at, but absolutely learning, stretch, coming out of our comfort zones, sweating, either literally or figuratively, is highly correlated with happiness and great experiences. And when we have more mobility within organizations, when we can grow from one role to another within organizations, statistically, people are more likely to give discretionary effort and stick around. So those are some of the things. And so when organizations do that really well, they have formal learning plans, they give people control over their learning as well. They sit people together in neighborhoods so they can learn, with a colleague and in the trenches. They organize mentorship programs because that's a huge way that people learn and build social capital. And I guess there's so many things, right? But leadership is critical as well. People want direction and vision and mission. And when we develop leaders to be even better at leading, that also moves the needle in terms of employee experience.
Thanks, Tracy. Anyone want to add on to that with their experiences? No, we'll move on. I guess, Denny, I was just wondering, like, my experience is working in big corporates or big organizations that have got many teams. It can be even spread over geography, like we're just spread over. How do those sort of organizations deliver a consistent, amazing experience across these departments that really, have you got some experience with that?
Yes, absolutely. Great question, Rod. And I think there are two tensions in here that I want to bring. On the one hand, I think we need standardization and we need processes to ensure that each individual experience the different touch points in a seamless and fair and equitable way. Technology should be available, again, globally, to reach everyone. And we should be conducting active listening to understand if what we are doing as we advance with initiatives or programs is definitely resonating with that employee population. But on the other hand, I said there are two tensions there. This is the more traditional one, right? So standardized process, technology, and so forth. But again, I think on the other hand, as organizations need to move fast, especially in the industry I work with, which is tech, we need new approaches to this. And I think definitely agile and having pilots of some of the new HR initiatives or employee experience initiatives can be very, very valuable for several reasons. One, you decrease the risk, right, of implementing something at a big scale and then finding out 1 year after that big implementation, 2 years into that implementation, that it's definitely not resonating, it's not effective, and everyone is already super invested in that, right? So you get, if you involve people from these pilots, you get employee engagement from day one, you get manager and leadership buy-in also from the very first moment. And you engage people along the way, and you get to iterate as you hear feedback in a very short iterative process. And we did this actually at Eventbrite for our onboarding process for one of our two new regions, India and Spain, very successfully. Like starting small from region and not from headquarters, and then trying to see if we could scale this program and process to be global. So definitely, I wanted to bring this to everyone's attention here. Sometimes it requires standardization, but some other times it's good to go with the piloting experience.
I really like that. Yeah, that's so key. So I'm just wondering, has everyone got some other, what other strategies or approaches would you suggest?
I just wanted to add to Agostina, I was nodding my head with everything you were saying, and scalable is a really important concept. It's one thing if you say part of the employee experience is we're going to give pay time off days, let's say, because that you could scale once you determine that that's doable. But you got to look at, for example, I worked in an organization, and a team came to me and said, we want the company to pay for birthday cakes when it's each person's birthday. And this was a team of 10 people. And I said, that's great for a team of 10, but we're actually 12,000 people in the organization. How would we buy 12,000 birthday cakes every year, assuming people wanted their birthday acknowledged? And, they sat back and saw, oh, okay. And so it's really important to look at and say, what is it about the birthday cake or what is it about that you're trying to get out of it? Is it a recognition that it's a person's special day? Is there a different way that we can do it that's scalable? And so it's really important that you look at scalability, because sometimes what seems like a really good idea, it doesn't work when you're looking at the entire. And then you get into a sense of unfairness. How come that team gets birthday cakes? And that's what happened. We don't get birthday cakes, but that team, finance, is getting birthday cakes. And then you get the whole disengagement because they're being treated better than we are. And that raises a whole other issue around employee experience.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Can I also add, I think that one of the things I think that we need to be better at is actually talking about what the experience is that we want our employees to have. I think we're all great at talking about this is the vision of the company, these are our values, but then you need to take that next click and actually talk and articulate what is it that the experience that we want our employees to have. And I know that it's definitely a new language as you start looking at the process that you want, and people are very quick to go to a solution. It's like, whoa, take a step back. What is it we're trying to achieve? What is it that we want? And if you take an onboarding, are you going to be having people come together face to face, or are you going to do it virtually? And both of those are going to provide similar outcomes, but different experiences. And if we're able to articulate, this is the experience that we want employees to have at various points in time, again, all of those other things will be coming through. And I think you're never going to get away, Angela, from the inconsistencies and that's not fair, because managers are managers, and some of them will give birthday cakes and some of them won't. But I think that being able to come back to, okay, but when that manager gave a birthday cake and this one didn't and did something else, what are they trying to achieve? And sort of getting back to, the same way that we talk about the different ways that we recognize employees, and everyone wants different things. You also need to think about that with the employee experience, because involvement in community, if that's something that you want to build, it means different things to different people. And being able to think about how can you build community in different ways, and have that flexibility for those people that want lots of community and lots of connection and lots of conversations, and those others that just want to feel like they're a part of something.
Many amazing points there. And like at the moment, I said it before, I'm in Sydney. I'm at Sydney Olympic Park. I'm coaching a volleyball team in a national competition. I've got 12, 16-year-olds, and they're all different. And being able to communicate and achieve what outcomes they'd like to achieve as individuals is quite a challenge, actually, to just understand each different person and how they communicate and all those sort of things. So a lot of what you said sort of resonated just for that little scenario for me. And I think actually I was going to come to yourself actually on the next question, but maybe you've sort of answered a bit of it already, which was, but I'll still ask the question, which was, what are some of the common pitfalls in designing employee experience initiatives? Is there anything you'd like to add to what you were just sharing?
Sure. I think that in addition to not necessarily defining what it is, also thinking about what it's not. Because sometimes we will use words and we will say, and I'll come back to that community. Oh, we want to create community. And if you're not saying that, well, community for us means that people feel like they're a part of something, that they feel like they've been involved, but it does not mean that they're meeting face-to-face Monday, Wednesday, and Friday every week. So being able to say what it is and what it isn't, to be able to give managers, leaders, employees a good view of what you mean when you're talking about all of those different words that you want your employee experience to be. So you want it to be engaging. Engaging means different things to different people. So it means this, it doesn't mean this. We want it to be, and so then you're able to, have it be so that individuals can see how they can contribute. Because coming back to the beginning of our conversation, it's about everyone having a great experience and everyone interacting, not just about the policies and the procedures and the way that HR is doing things or that finance is doing things. It's about how all of those things come together. So yeah.
Yeah, I would join in on that conversation about pitfalls with a couple of things. I love your points, Dahlia, about, hey, let's get really clear about the experience that we want. And I think a pitfall is that we get disagreement about tactics, and what we can start with is agreement about experience. We want it to be welcoming, stimulating, collaborative, aligned with our culture, whatever those things are. And then we can solve those in lots of different ways. So one pitfall is to get stuck in the tactics, and a solution is to bump that up to the experience that we want to create. I think another pitfall can be not taking action. Like sometimes an organization feels like it can't do everything and tends to kind of reduce to the lowest common denominator. And I think we really, really benefit when we take action, when we try, when we monitor. Agostina, you made the point about measuring and getting feedback and piloting. And sometimes it's a means to an end, and as well as an end in and of itself. It's a means to an end to implement tactics that are brilliant in terms of employee experience, but it's also an end in and of itself, because it demonstrates that we're investing, that we're doing something, that we care about employees, and we want to, show with a high level of respect, what we can do to improve the employee experience. And I think the other thing we can think about, one pitfall can be not having enough variety. And really making decisions based only on frequency of use. a lot of times we find that benefits statistically get relatively low utilization, right? You may only have, 5 people in your motorcycle enthusiast club, but oh my gosh, it really means a lot to the people who are motorcycle enthusiasts, right? You may only have, 5% of your people who use the pet care benefits, but oh my gosh, for those people, it really matters. So I think it's an effort impact thing. If you're really small, you may not be able to have a huge array of benefits and support systems and things that contribute to employee experience at a tactical level, understood. But as you add to your suite and give people more choice and control over the kinds of things that are most meaningful for them, that makes a really big difference. Again, you can't always do it all, but when you can do enough that's relatively easy to maintain and gives people more choice, that can make a really big difference. So I think a pitfall is feeling like it has to be too consistent and measuring only on frequency of use. A solution is to think about as much variety as is realistic for you, and then knowing that you're making an impact even on a small group.
Thanks, Tracy. Who else would like to add in?
I do, and this is fantastic. As I was listening to Tracy, that triggered another thought about a potential pitfall, which is not being inclusive enough and making the assumption that something works for a specific population will translate to another. And this can be exemplified in, I think it was last year, that speaking about Latin Heritage Month at Eventbrite. And I was in touch with the ERG leader, and she was reaching out to me about what we wanted to do that specific month, and she was curious to hear my perspective, and I was sharing with her that in Latin America we don't necessarily celebrate Latin Heritage Month, and that was like, wow, eye-opening for her. And I was, oh no, this is something like different here. But I think we ended up having such a rich conversation, inclusive conversation about what it meant to be Latin X in different geographies, what implications that had, and how we could educate our organization on those differences. So we started up here and we ended up here. It was such an inspiring journey, but I wanted to bring this also to everyone's attention here.
Well, I'm glad you did. Thank you. So I guess we've heard about quite a number of pitfalls or challenges. I'm just wondering then, so how do we, and I'll come to you, Angela, about what are some of the warning signs? How do we, when we're putting in initiatives, that we sort of really pay attention to these things?
Yeah, some of the signs that it's failing are the obvious ones. So first of all, what are your employee engagement survey results and verbatim comments telling you? What is your turnover like? What is the morale like when you're walking through the office, or if you're virtual? When are people choosing to keep their video off? Are they not engaging in meetings? I mean, there are the obvious signs that the experience isn't working. And to build on some comments that Tracy and Agustina made, is that you really need to look at your leadership. So when you're articulating what you want that experience to be, have you empowered and educated your managers, your leaders, on what that might look like in the workplace? Because as somebody said, managers are managers, and some of them are good and some of them are not good. And we know you tend to lead because your manager is terrible more than anything else. But also, to Tracy's point, if you're, let's say part of your experience is benefits, one way that you could look at whether it's working is not just usage, because you're right. If some of your benefits is IVF, but only a very small percentage using it, it's still a pretty good benefit to have, is really canvassing and surveying your staff on what they would like. What does it mean to them when you've articulated that we want to be welcoming or we want to have community? What does that look like and feel like? And also asking the employees, what is their part in it? So sometimes employees wait for the company to do whatever it is, like create this great experience. But the company is just people. It's the employees, it's the managers, it's the CEO, it's the people. And so what is each person's responsibility to help and create that employee experience? And when you've got a group of employees who are not willing to participate in creating that, that's another sign that your initiatives may be failing.
Yeah.
Thanks,
to add to that,
yes,
I'd say, know why your best employees stay. And flipping the question around the other direction, I think that kind of to maybe take the conversation, I don't know if it's in a different direction, but maybe to amplify it, is to move away from some of our traditional practices of telling and defining from the top down, and really moving more towards the business-led approach. If we know that managers are a key indicator in employee retention and satisfaction and growth, are we truly exercising our values and our models? And are we putting to action when we're saying we're committed to learning and development and upskilling? Our managers are employees too. Our HR team are employees too, right? So how do we look at this holistically as people who make up an organization, and really lean in with curiosity in a way to help them define the experience? We may think we know what we want to put in front of them in different segments for experiences, but perhaps this is drawing from my background in higher education and workforce development, and then transitioning into healthcare, where lines of businesses and services are made up of very diverse yet talented and skilled individuals, right? And so what makes sense for a team working within an emergency response situation is going to be very different from people who may be doing, cancer care. And so while we're all working towards the same mission and building community and caring for people and having quality care, it's the continuity of care that defines that experience. And that's really led by our leaders, our frontline leaders. So where are our C-suite champions and our board of directors helping to advocate and model the way and create access for our leaders to inspire and help cascade the mission, the vision, the values in a way that each line of business or team can define collectively what that looks like for them in service to the greater mission. And to me, that is really at the crux of experience. It's kind of like running in a track and field race, like with the handing off the baton in the relay. Everybody's got a different pace. They might have a different style or form of running, but they're all headed in the same direction. And it's that continuity, it's the intentional connection of that handoff. And that's our people as they're transitioning from our talent attraction to the conversations they're having with recruiters, to their experience with HR as they're doing their pre-boarding requirements, to who are my people? Where's my team? When do I get to meet them? This is a lot of process and policy stuff. How can we get people connected sooner in the experience rather than later?
Oh my gosh, I love that point about continuity. Like, I talk about continuity all the time, but your comparison to continuity of care in healthcare is just brilliant. And it makes me think about it in a whole new way. Like, one of the things that we get in terms of feedback when customers come to visit us is they say, we talked to so many different people and we heard so much of the same in terms of their approach and their passion and their energy. We got different information, but continuity in terms of message and values and all that kind of thing, which I think is one of the biggest compliments we can get. We got lots of warts, of course, but that's one of the things that I think is a demonstration of continuity. And I was thinking about continuity too, as you were talking, related to experience and expectation and the alignment of what we say and what we do. Like, that's another really fundamental aspect of employee experience, right? Like if we say, oh, we are really good at decision making and fast decision making, and then, oh my gosh, it takes us forever to make a decision, that doesn't feel like alignment. That doesn't feel like a great employee experience. Or if we say, oh, our culture is all about involvement and participation, and we really value the employee voice, but nobody gets to participate and everything feels like a top-down decision, that lack of alignment can be really frustrating. And it's not what's happening, like a more top-down decision making may work better in some cultures than others. It's not the choices a culture is making for itself. It's the alignment between what we say and what we do, what the expectation is that we're setting and what the experience is that we're creating. So it feels really, really important that when we're establishing tactics, or better yet, when we're thinking about strategies, we're super clear about how we're aligned and what we're saying and what we're doing. Better to be clear about what we're not getting right and then work on it than to try to, make a case for how wonderful we are and not measure up for people.
Yeah, at the root of it is credibility and trust, right? And then that cycle just begins.
This is so resonating. And I want to bring a thought-provoking, if I may, here, because I do think continuity is key, but I also think that employee experience is an ever-evolving, and sometimes in HR, we tend to get too attached to our own practices, programs, and I would say a good practice would be to audit on a regular basis, to ask the question, is this still valuable and making the impact to this population of employees, to these leaders? And in being able to, bring that challenging question, bring those employees and leaders also on the journey. And if they're saying, no, this is no longer something that my employee population needs or resonates with, being able to let go and think of what else is something that we could co-design together or design together that would make sense for this time being.
Agostina, I'm so happy you brought that up, because as we moved on from the conversation, my thought was a common pitfall is holding on to the way that we do things and not wanting to change. So thank you so much for bringing that up.
It's been a pretty amazing conversation, and I can double click on everything. So I might come back to Jackie though, and on just how, maybe just building on what we just talked about there, is how can organizations recover from failed employee experience initiatives? What other ideas do you have on that?
Oh, that's a complex question. Definitely, because we're human, right? The people that are there, that are showing up, we need to show up and be transparent and say, hey, look, we've got this wrong. And we're inviting you to come in and help us make it right. And, we can't change what decisions have been made or the implications that have come out of it, but we can choose to come together, become the listener, right? Really do the walk a while in my shoes exercise, and get out there and be the listener that is listening for significance, right? And not just like the motion or the concept, but really with curiosity and getting into how does this impact what you do? Where's the importance? Where is this getting in the way of you feeling like this is an excellent experience? Give them the reins. How would you design this differently? You're listening. You're not promising the world, right? You're showing up with intent and purposeful listening. And then circling back with that feedback loop and saying, hey, I heard you. Here's some of what we're going to change. But then you have to do the action, right? Otherwise, you have to ask people to put their armor down when there's no trust and really show up in a way to invite, this is where the psychological safety and, leaders as coaches and all of these things start coming into play. And so I'll stop there and let somebody else chime in.
That was a pretty good answer for being a difficult question. So thanks, Jackie.
I would add to that, Rod and panel, that listen intently that you were mentioning, Jackie, also comes with a courageous approach after that, right? We have to be eager to hear the uncomfortable things. Sometimes our assumption, our hypothesis of why something was working or not is A, and then we're listening B. And it might be that we're kind of invested in moving towards A. We have the buy-in from the C-suite and the senior leadership. And now we did some active listening along the way, and it turns out it's B. And as some of the key drivers, because in HR, we are co-responsible for creating and designing employee experience, we have to take the lead on that. And we have to be courageous to sit at that table and say, well, now we have to pivot. And here are the rationale and the data and the argument for doing so. So for me, courage is part of designing employee experience, definitely.
One of the comments in the public chat is it can be challenging to create an employee experience plan when you're not even getting responses to the engagement survey, get the expectations from employees for the company to figure it out. And so what I would say to build on Jackie and Agostina's points is if the employee engagement survey is a medium that's not working for getting information from the employees, try a different medium. It might be, as I think it was Tracy who said it, try stay interviews, do one-on-one stay interviews with what's keeping you here. What do you like about it? Look at your exit interview data. Why are people leaving? What are they saying? Who is leaving? So if you're not doing exit interviews and you're not getting comments from there, just analyze the data. What are the demographics that are people leaving? Is it all from one department under one manager? Is it all under a particular job role? So is job design something that needs to be done? So there are different ways to get that information about how to create that employee experience if the employee engagement survey is not a medium that's working for you.
Thanks, Angela. I come to Dalia. So as HR professionals, come up with these great initiatives, and what are some ideas where leaders aren't really on side? They're not bought into seeing the value of improving employee experience. What are some of the things we can do work with them to get them on side?
Sure. And I think my answer would be the same as a leader that's not involved in any X that comes after it, whether it's employee experience or whether it's whatever needs to come after. I always start with curiosity to understand where is their reaction coming from. Sometimes it's, we've tried this HR program before. And so being able to demystify that, in this case, the employee experience isn't about an employee program. It's about our way of interacting and behaving and being at the company. Sometimes it's just that they are so task focused that I need to task focus back and talk about, okay, well, if you need to achieve X, what do we need in order to get there? And so helping to be really curious about what is it that's driving the resistance and understanding, what are their business outcomes and how can what we're trying to do achieve that. And so, for example, some of my favorite is when it comes to this is typically my directors of engineering or tech or all of those ones. They love when we talk about culture and employee experience because they are so data focused and all about that. But it's, you need your people on the ground. And I understand that when we say community, you don't want you don't believe that your programmers want to come to our lunches and they don't want to come to our events. I agree with you. But they do want to have somewhere that they can go and they can share their coding and they can share their language and they can interact and learn and iterate together. And so it's helping that translate what we're trying to achieve into their language and what their people want to achieve their outcomes. So I would lead with curiosity and then try to speak their language.
Sounds pretty good to me. I think I need to move countries. There's lots of great answers and places to work, I think, in your organizations. All right. Anyone else want to add on to that?
I think the other thing we can do is just provide data. I mean, there's so many organizations that are evidence-based, research-based, and there's so much data about how employee experience drives things like performance, productivity, retention, innovation. And I think we can provide data about the context, right? Like we're in the biggest talent revolution ever in terms of declining birth rates and declining fertility rates and aging population. So contextually, we need people, and this talent shortage is here to stay. No matter how old we are, it's here to stay. And we can provide data about the ways that employee experience can help us with the talent shortage in terms of our organization. It's not just like fluffy, hey, let's make everybody happy with, Caesar salad on Wednesdays. This is about real business issues and raising the bar in terms of how we create that employee experience for attraction and retention.
Some great points there. I did have me wondering, and I was already wondering before, you've just added to it, is your thoughts, Tracy, on the intergenerational elements? We've got such many generations in the workforce now. How do we look at that with the lens of employee experience?
Yeah, I love this question. I'm one of those people who's sort of anti-generations. Like, let's not overgeneralize on generations, right? All Gen Z's this, all boomers that, right? The minute we try to overgeneralize them, that's the minute that we're, biasing our actions against people, et cetera. However, there's some really, really great data about what people want that we can look at generationally. And a lot of times it has to do more with their life stage than their chronological age. One of the things we know about generations is lots of us want similar things. We want purpose, we want connection, we want learning and growth, we want recognition, we want meaningful work, etc. The other thing, though, about the differences is how we prioritize things in our careers. So this, I think, is just fascinating. When we look at the youngest generations, from their work, they want growth, learning, career development, and to build their social capital. They care about lots of other things, but that's at the top of their list: growth, learning, build social capital, have visibility, get mentoring, etc. In mid-generations, where we're threading the needle, right? We've got elder care and child care, and we're trying to do all the things. In that midpoint of generation, we generally want absolute support for performance. Help me get in, get out, do the elder care dash, do the daycare dash. Whether I'm virtual, whether I'm literally in the office or just into my work, everything an organization can do in that employee experience to provide support for performance, technology, connections, clear expectations, all the things that help with performance are most important to that generation. We all care about performance, but that's high for that generation because of threading the needle and all the other things. And then later generations often care most about leaving a legacy, about being part of the organizational memory, about having their work have meaning because they've had an impact on others. And so when we can do things like create off-ramps or mentorship programs, or celebrate the impacts that they've made and make sure that they're part of that ongoing legacy in the organization, those make a difference. So again, all of those things point to how we create employee experiences. All of those things are important. It's a matter of kind of priority generation by generation. So pretty cool stuff.
That was a pretty cool answer. Thanks, Tracy. Anyone want to add into that at all?
No, but I wanted to bring one question from the audience, if that's fine. And the question was, how do we ensure a positive employee experience during an employee's exit? And I think this is a great question because sometimes we neglect that piece of the puzzle. And I think it all comes down to empathy. We are fortunate to live in today's workplace where emotions are able to permeate within the organization, and being empathic and vulnerable and respectful about that individual being impacted is critical for the process to work. And then on the other hand, I would say on the process side, ensuring that it's simple, that it's seamless, that we're not adding bureaucracy to an already anxious and grieving process. So ensuring that if the employee has to return an element of work or the laptop or whatever, we can ensure that process is really simple to follow, so that we can allow the individual the time to grieve and go through that process. So that's for me, again, respect, empathy, and seamless process.
So I agree so much with what Agustina said. And in terms of respect, when an employee gives their notice of resignation, what I've noticed is a lot of managers take it personally. A lot of companies take it personally. And as soon as that person gives their resignation, it's like that person is dead to me. They cut them out. They don't treat them well. They may make things difficult. And remember, this person who's leaving you for whatever reason is going to be the ambassador or not for your organization. And it's not uncommon for people to leave an organization, get some different experience and come back, and you get the benefit of that growth. And so it's really important. Managers, do not take it personally. You treat, as Agustina said, treat them with respect. And as we're talking about employee experience, if a person leaves voluntarily or involuntarily, really pay attention to what the impact is going to be on the people left behind. Is their workload now going to increase? Is their work changing? Are you going to be short-staffed? Are they going to have to hire somebody and train somebody up? And that impacts the manager or the employee experience as well. The very last thing I'll say, because I think I saw Dahlia unmute as well, is that if you're terminating somebody versus somebody resigning, you're letting somebody go. To Agustina's point, respect and dignity. You treat that, it's still a human being who has a family, who has friends. Their esteem is taking a hit, their livelihood is taking a hit. And so remember that at the other end of that conversation of we are parting ways with you is a human being who needs to go and face their family and friends. And so treat them with dignity, because in addition to employee experience, I mean, that gets around in the company, how you're treating people as they're exiting.
Brad, do you have a quick moment? Okay, I'll be very quick. We talked earlier about how the employee experience starts before an employee joins, as you're doing the talent acquisition and you're trying to get that pool. And I don't know why we like to think of the end of the process being their last day with the company, and not thinking about how it continues on into your alumni and how you're treating people that are X, whatever your company is. And I think that we need to be thinking differently about that entire employee experience and the life cycle, because oftentimes you've done great things with them that are making them that fantastic employee over there, and it's all a result of you. And managers love to say, oh, that person is burning bridges. Well, you know what, manager, you can also burn bridges with employees, and we need to make sure that we're not doing that, and that we are keeping the door open for that talent, because you never know when you're going to encounter them again, but you're never going to know when you're going to need and want them back.
Yeah, and they could be a customer, couldn't they? So
we tend to think of it linear, right? Like we use this word life cycle. Like I'm not even comfortable with that term really, because when does that engagement begin? Way before they may even be aware that they have an opportunity to join you. And where does it really end for different passages to, Tracy's comment about generations and what's important and how they rebound perhaps at a different space in life. So how are we cultivating that relationship, and where's the career development conversations coming in with this? Because it may not be alignment, it may not be a fit, right? But that doesn't mean you can't treat that person with dignity and honor the talents that they do have in a different environment.
Yeah, thanks, Jackie. All right, so we only have 2 minutes left, or 2 or 3 minutes left. Just wonder if everyone just wants to share one piece of advice we haven't sort of addressed yet on creating this amazing employee experience. So
I can start and be super brief. I think one of the things we can do is just do it. Like we're not going to do it perfectly, but if we're listening, if we're continuously improving, and if we're trying some things, we will learn through that process, and we will demonstrate that focus on employees.
Thanks, Tracy. I might just go around the room to Angela.
Yeah, borrowing Dahlia's point earlier, we need to be better about talking about the employee experience that we want our employees to have, and really realizing that the employee experience we create impacts employer reputation, but also impacts organizational reputation, whether your customers want to do business with you.
Thank you.
I want to bring the point of AI. I think we have to be ready in HR to be disrupted again. And so I would promote definitely to revisit what's your HR acumen, your digital and tech acumen, as we engage on this journey of new employee experiences. Yeah, so AI.
Jackie.
I think, all of that. And, the one constant is that we're human outside of AI, right? We're still humans that show up for work. And so we are going to be dynamic. We are going to be responsive to different external contextual things that are occurring. So don't forget to ask that question about the experience yourself. What does it feel like to go through the hiring process or to be recruited here within the organization? When was the last time I, as a manager, went through an application experience for people that I'll be interviewing? So really just increasing your own awareness and being in tune with how you're responding to what's being asked of you, and where you can take some accountability and ownership rather than having initiatives being told. Where can you inspire and drive initiatives at a more local influence?
Thanks, Jackie.
And I would just end with, and I think it's been said a little bit throughout, but that the employee experience is about the interactions and the experience that everyone's having. So HR is the steward of it, but it depends on everyone in the company. So really, working with your managers and your leaders to ensure that they know the role that they play, because they actually have a much bigger impact on it than we do in HR. And I think that sometimes we think that we have to be the owner and we have to do everything and leverage everyone else.
Wow. Well, thank you, panelists, and the audience as well. It's been an amazing panel. I think that we've really covered our brief, which was understanding the basics, creating a durable and an amazing employee experience. I found the last hour a great experience, and it's like 1 a.m. here, and it's been worthwhile to be part of such a great panel this morning. So I look forward to joining panels again in the future with everyone. So thank you, and good night or good morning. Have a good day. Thank you.